I always like to tell, at least in the writing game especially, but it certainly applies to actors as well, it's like, don't get into this business unless you're prepared to have your heart broken on an ongoing basis. Even in success, you find yourself, as a writer at least, having the things you love most in your work taken away, stripped away, and you're beholden to notes from, from the head of the studio to the janitor of the studio, practically. And you're having to, I've had phone calls going, well, my assistant had a great idea. And I've been like, you're consulting your assistant about my script now, thank you. But that pain of rejection and of notes and of being told that what you did isn't good enough never, ever, 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 ever goes away. I kept thinking it would, and it just never does. And it doesn't matter what your pedigree or what you're coming in at. If anything, the higher up you get, the more you suffer the slings and arrows from every which direction. But I just find that if you just maintain that belief in yourself, I know it sounds trite and cliche, but it really is like, just know what you're doing is, if it's pleasing you, just keep doing it, and sooner or later it's going to please somebody else.
Basically, to me, failure and tension and conflict and rejection in the moment realized of that is the defining moment of your character. And you're going to know right then if you're built for this or not, every single time. The way, whether it's the 36-hour plan, which it might be, or something else, you're going to define your character and where you're headed next by how you respond to that tension and conflict and rejection and failure, and what you do with that, and how you, and it's all here. I mean, you may speak to your minister or your loved one or your therapist or whoever it is, and that's always good because sometimes you should have a dialogue. But however you handled it in that moment of fill in the blank, realized is going to define your future and your character, and hopefully will make you stronger. In some capacity, it may also speak to you and say, maybe I just don't want to do this, because why would I want to keep working with, and you know this really well, why would I want to keep working with unreasonable people the rest of my career? I had the preeminent half-hour director of my lifetime was Jimmy Burroughs, and I gleaned a lot of enlightenment from him. And he said, our job, when I was still working in the half-hour world, our job more than anything else now is how to go about defining and collaborating with unreasonable people. It's, for me, in my position, the single biggest chore I have. Because in the same way you were saying, even the janitor gets a shot at you, me too. You'd think not. I'm supposed to be the boss, particularly in movies. But holy Christ almighty. I have never, ever had more people in my face with an idea they think is better than mine, or the lead actors, or the writers. I constantly find it stunning. But here again, in the moment of how I choose to respond to that middle management's assistant's note defines me and my character and how I'm going to go about my life in our business as well as outside.
I think the reason we're all successful and continue on is that you can only care what you think. You can't care what anybody else thinks. And I know that you've heard that before, but in point of fact, you get rejected so much and you get the notes so much that eventually you have to go, it doesn't matter what they think, and I don't need what they think. I was raised to be, and still am in my heart, a good girl, and so I was always trying to do the thing that would make other people happy, and that does not lead to success. Because I tried it, and I know. What leads to success is to take in all that stuff, to take in all the input, to make the changes that are required of you to make in your position, but to always fall back on what is it I know, what is it that I believe, what is my instinct about this material that I'm creating in whatever way you are contributing to create it. And that is the only way to be successful in this business.
I always call it the 36-hour solution. You have any kind of thing, and you're allowed to throw your little pity party, you sit Shiva for a while, do whatever you're going to do. But you've got about 36 hours, and then that's it, and it's like, or if you ever have a problem, and you get sort of like imploded by it, you give it 36 hours and you watch it change, because it's not only, 36 hours seems to be the magic number, because it's a different time of day, you know, and it just gives you that 24-hour and a little extra time. And, you know, you just, I mean, this business is all, what you have to do is you have to just keep moving. Because if you have so many eggs in just one basket, when you get, you know, upset about something, then you're just going to feel like that's the only thing that you have. But if you've got a lot of different things going on, then it's just one thing. It's like, oh yeah, oh that bad, oh I just heard the feedback on that. You know, not to say that every audition you feel that way about, or every project that you have or whatever. You know, you allow yourself that little bit of time, but then just get on, get moving from there.
It was really interesting. A year before my contract expired, and I'll just tell you straight what happened. There was a still small voice at the core of my being that said, I'm getting ready to move you. That's what I heard at the core of my being. Now, it was really strange. I was like, okay, what does that mean? I came home, I told my wife. I said, okay, I think something bigger than me is getting ready to move me, and I don't know what that means. This is a year before my contract expires. Now, it was, so I just said, I have an accountability group that I go to, and so I asked them to, pray about this, see what you come up with. I want to make sure that this is not me doing this, that this is not the pizza, that this, it's real serious stuff. I mean, I'm just being straight with you.
They get it.
This is exactly what happened. So for a year, I kind of watched. It was almost like an out-of-body experience. I watched things start beginning to happen. And it was the strangest thing. We had a huge senior management meeting where they brought all 400 corporate officers, vice presidents and above, together with Howard Stringer and John Calley and Amy Pascal and John Feldheimer from TV. And this is in November. This is right before the expiration date of my contract. And they said, we're getting ready to cut overhead at the studio 20% across the board, including senior management, which meant 80 of the executives sitting on the soundstage that day were going to be gone. So I thought, well, maybe this is what it means. Maybe I'm supposed to. But at the same time, I was in charge of over 17 films, the biggest films in the studio. I mean, I was in charge of Men in Black 2, Stuart Little 2, the first Spider-Man movie, adaptation, Sweetest Thing. I mean, I figured out one day, it was actually one night, about 9 o'clock, I'm sitting in my office and I'm going, oh my gosh. Now, we had merged TriStar and Columbia together, and I thought the senior vice president of TriStar, who answered to Gary on he ran the TriStar stuff, and I did the Columbia stuff. And so I looked at our slates, and I was in charge of $894 million worth of production that was in production right then. And he was in charge of $467 million, and I'm going like, my gosh, this is the busiest the studio has been, because we were facing back in 2001, an actors-writers strike like we just went through at that time. So we rushed a bunch of stuff into production. And I thought, man, and my contract is up. And so the expiration date came, and I came to work the next day. The key fit in the door. I went to work. So I just continued to work. And people were like freaking out because people were losing their jobs like crazy. And one of my friends, one of my accountability guys, said something to me that I'll share with you. And it's my personal thing. I don't mean to, I'm not trying to lay anything on you, but this is my personal thing. And this is what he said to me, and it made total sense to me, and I just shared it with people as they came to me going, have you heard, have they talked to you, do you have your contract? I go, no. I go, but here's what you have to understand. I'm not in control. You're not in control. They're not in control. I believe God's in control. So, and my friend said to me, here's what you have to remember, Bill. God is your provider. He will always provide for you. It's a promise God makes. He'll provide for his children. He'll provide for you. Sony's your employer. And boy, when he said that to me, it just went into me, and I went, oh, this is an employment issue. It's not a providing my family's going to be okay. I mean, I'm not, and I had such peace. Now, this is really weird too, because I should have been waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning with cold sweats, and I wasn't. So that was another thing that was, I knew it wasn't me, because my son was getting ready to go to college. My mother-in-law had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, so we're getting ready to assume a huge expense for her. I mean, there were all kinds of things. As it turned out, my contract expired. I continued to work for 5 months with no contract. And one day they came to me and said, oh, we made a terrible mistake. Your contract expired, and we're going to give you a new 3-year contract. To which I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sign it. And they said, what? They said, do you understand there's going to be a writer's strike and an actor's strike? And they, well, what do you mean? We're downsizing. We're giving you a 3-year contract, which meant the senior vice president of TriStar was going to go. And so I said, well, I don't know. And they said, well, okay, how much do you want?
Yeah.
And and it was really kind of weird in the studio system. It's just kind of a weird kind of thing. And I go, in the 15 years I've been here, how many times has this ever been about money? It's never been about money. You've overpaid me from the first day I ever had the job. I was overpaid, in my estimation. I just was, because that's how studios are. And so I said, it's not about money. It's about what I'm supposed to do with my life, and they kind of look at you. And so
No is a very powerful word.
no, it is.
Really is.
But see, it's not coming from me. And so
Right.
finally, after a month of really kind of going through this whole thing, it got all the way up to the chief administrative officer of the company, who sat me down and said, okay, Bill, exactly what do you want? And I said, I'll tell you exactly what I want. Okay, I want to be part of a company that values people. Okay, now you want me. I understand that you are offering me this 3-year contract. So you want me. However, you allowed my contract to expire. I had corporate attorneys for Sony coming to me saying, do you understand the position that you are in, the leverage that you have? You are over 50 years old. They've allowed your contract to expire. You can have this job for the rest of your life because the studio knows you would have the greatest age discrimination lawsuit in the business. And I go, it's not about that. And then the finance people are coming to, you can hit them with a signing bonus you'll never have to work again. I mean, it was just amazing how people inside the company were doing this. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So, okay, so what do I want? I want to be part of a company that values people, because even though you want me, you allowed this to happen, and when we were in this big senior management meeting where they announced that, 20% of the workforce was going to go, at the end of the meeting, they threw it open for questions, and not one person asked a question. I said, do you understand the seriousness of the corporate culture at the studio? That of your 400 senior executives, nobody asked a question? I said, it's real serious. People are the company. Right? So that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in being part of something that's bigger than the company. It's the people that make the company. So therefore, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. And the chief administrative officer looked at me and said, that's never going to happen. I said, I know. I said, so, I'm just going to continue to work, and the ball's in your court. So I'll finish. This is not a negotiating ploy. I'll never start working on a movie that I don't finish. I'm happy to work here for the next 30 years without a contract. I understand you can't pay me more money. It's not about paying me more money. It's about, it's about the culture of the company, and that's what I'm interested in.
It all comes from the same basis with your story. By the time it comes to me, it really is about performance, because it's been built and nurtured for quite a while before I get to see the film. I can be involved in the process and the conversations, but the editor looks for performance and story and subtext.
Are you the cutter? Do you cut people?
Do I cut people?
You mean make the
Ultimately,
decision
you have
to
to call on who
Yeah.
can be in it and who's not going to be in it.
killer of careers?
Yes. Yeah, I get help. I don't do it on my own. I mean, I can offer, I make my suggestions. The good fortune I have is that people want to hear my opinion. But as we were talking earlier about how things are done, I'm the only one on this panel who would be considered below the line. So I take notes from everybody on this panel, sometimes at the same time. And I'll get concurrent 3 or 4 different sets of notes that conflict with each other. So, you know, my choices are made to determine which one they're going to see in the next cut and which one I'll cut alternate versions to show the others to or all of them to. Because in the world of computer, we can cut for everybody. But, I mean, from what comes to me, it's really about performance. I can help build an arc in a performance. Oh, yeah.
What are some examples?
It really is about getting coverage that you would like to have, certain things that need to be on camera in a certain way, enough options in other places.
That's the director's job?
Yeah, but if they, you know, in television, we don't get, okay, we'll pick up the scene tomorrow. We've got 7.5 pages to shoot on Monday. And come the 9th hour, if the director hasn't already thought about what they're dropping, they're in trouble because something bigger will get dropped. But it's about them making choices through the day and then me finding a way to what we call multiply their setups.
I just developed kind of a tough skin. And I realized that, you know, if there's an event, if there's a show, if there's an event going on, somebody's having a birthday or somebody's this, we never get invited because they forget because we're not in the same room, the same building as they are. I can tell you a number of producers that I've worked for in television that when they get their break into going into film, I'm not hired to go with them into the film world because, you know, I don't know how to cast film. My feeling is that if you can cast, for Arrested Development, we sometimes had 30 people in an episode. If you can cast 30 people in 5 days, paying them after fucking scale, and you find really good actors to do it, give me a budget of $65 gazillion in 6 months, I could do anything, you know? So, but, you know, of course, I don't know how to cast film. I think the biggest mistake that actors make is not being prepared. And that runs the entire gamut from not getting a whole script if it's available, not reading the breakdown, not if it's a pilot and there's no script available, then you download every single side that's available in that pilot, and you will pretty much get the script. Being prepared means that you know how long it's going to take you to get to that audition on the outside. I know it takes 2 hours sometimes to get across town these days. You know that, right? So if you know that it could take 2 hours, you better allow 3 if you can. You know, I can't tell you the amount of self-sabotaging that goes on, even just having actors walk in. Some people think that the longer that they spend in our presence is directly related to their opportunity to maybe book that part. And almost the opposite is true. You know, a sense of professionalism where you come in, and you know what? And the other thing is, don't put all your eggs in one basket when you're preparing something. At least prepare it 2 ways. Don't walk in and say, tell me a little bit about this show. Fuck you. I am so sorry. That is, do not take up my time or their time. Tell me a little, feel free to ask a question, but the question should then delineate for you. The question should be, with the answer to this one question, or these 2 short questions, I will be able to decide which of the ways I prepared this will be my best foot forward. Right? So the question should be, you know, I didn't get a whole script and this is all I have. Are they married? Are they brother and sister? Because I can't, wouldn't that be a big determining thing, you know, what you would, and, you know, how angry is he? Okay, then you might get an answer from that, you know, but it will help you decide the width and breadth of an audition, right?